What happens when Hollywood ambition collides with political reality? You're about to find out. Because the explosive confrontation between Kamala Harris and Meghan Markle on a Netflix set has just revealed everything wrong with celebrity culture today. Picture this: cameras rolling, crew members holding their breath, and then suddenly, shouting. Not the kind of heated discussion you'd expect between two powerful women, but a full-blown professional meltdown that left everyone on set questioning what they just witnessed. This isn't just another celebrity feud. This is the story of how one cooking show spiraled so far out of control that it nearly destroyed relationships, careers, and millions of dollars in the process. And here's what makes it even more shocking: it was all completely preventable. The trouble started when Netflix greenlit season 2 of With Love. Meghan, the streaming giant, wanted bigger names, more compelling content, and a fresh approach that would justify their massive investment. The concept seemed brilliant on paper: blend lifestyle content with meaningful conversations, featuring high-profile guests who could bring both star power and substance. Kamala Harris seemed like the perfect fit, a respected political figure who could bring gravitas to the show while discussing topics that mattered. The plan was straightforward: a 10-minute segment where she'd share insights about leadership, perhaps touch on women's empowerment, and create the kind of moment that generates positive headlines and social media buzz. But what actually happened on that set reveals a deeper problem with how celebrity projects are managed today. From the moment Harris arrived, it became clear that expectations weren't aligned. She'd agreed to a structured conversation about leadership and governance. Instead, she found herself in the middle of what can only be described as controlled chaos. The first red flag appeared during the initial takes. Instead of sticking to the planned discussion points, Meghan began steering the conversation toward controversial territory. She kept bringing up recent political events, including references to the previous election and inflammatory comments about various political figures. Each time this happened, Harris would attempt to redirect the conversation back to the agreed-upon topics. What's particularly telling is how this pattern repeated itself. Take after take, the same issues kept surfacing. Professional film sets operate on precision and preparation. Everyone knows their role, the schedule is tight, and deviations cost money. When a host repeatedly ignores the script and pushes personal agendas, it creates tension that ripples through the entire production. Harris, who spent decades in high-stakes political environments, recognized exactly what was happening. She wasn't being invited to share her expertise, she was being used as a prop in someone else's drama. The breaking point came when Meghan suggested they should address the elephant in the room and began making statements that had nothing to do with the show's supposed mission. Industry insiders described the atmosphere as increasingly uncomfortable. Camera operators were unsure whether to keep rolling. Producers were frantically trying to salvage usable footage, and Harris's security team was clearly assessing the situation, wondering if this was still a professional engagement or something else entirely. The confrontation itself was swift but devastating. Harris didn't just voice her frustration, she articulated exactly why the situation was problematic. She pointed out that the show was supposed to be about meaningful conversations, not manufactured controversy. She expressed disappointment that her time and reputation were being exploited for content that served no constructive purpose. Then came the moment that changed everything. Harris stood up, addressed Meghan directly, and made it clear that this wasn't the kind of platform she'd agreed to support. She told the room that professional standards matter, that guests deserve respect, and that using political figures as pawns for entertainment crosses a line that shouldn't be crossed. What happened next sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry. Harris walked off the set, but not before making it clear that any footage of her appearance should be destroyed. She didn't want her image associated with what the project had become. Her team followed immediately, leaving behind a production in complete disarray. The financial implications were staggering. That single segment had cost tens of thousands of dollars to set up. The episode's entire structure had been built around Harris's appearance. Suddenly, producers were facing the reality of completely restructuring their content while still meeting contractual obligations and budget constraints. But this wasn't an isolated incident. Sources close to the production reveal that similar problems had been brewing for weeks. Other high-profile guests had experienced comparable issues. Gavin Newsom had already reduced his involvement after his own uncomfortable experience during filming. The pattern was becoming impossible to ignore. What makes this situation particularly frustrating for Netflix executives is that it was entirely avoidable. The streaming platform had invested heavily in creating content that would appeal to diverse audiences while maintaining professional standards. Instead, they found themselves managing a production that seemed more interested in generating controversy than creating meaningful entertainment. The ripple effects extended far beyond that single day of filming. Word spread quickly through Hollywood's tight-knit network of publicists, agents, and talent managers. Within days, other potential guests were reconsidering their involvement. Some requested additional contract protections. Others simply withdrew from consideration entirely. Netflix found itself in an impossible position. They had a show that was hemorrhaging money, losing credibility, and alienating the very audience it was supposed to serve. The platform's reputation for quality content was being tested by a production that seemed determined to prioritize drama over substance. Behind closed doors, emergency meetings were being held to determine how to salvage the situation. Some executives advocated for completely scrapping the season and cutting losses. Others argued for intensive re-editing that would remove the controversial elements and focus on more neutral content. But the fundamental problem remained: too much of the existing footage was unusable. The budget overruns were becoming a serious concern. What had started as a modest production with reasonable expectations had ballooned into something that was consuming resources without delivering proportional value. Every reshoot, every script revision, every guest cancellation added to costs that were already spiraling out of control. Meanwhile, crew members were sharing their own experiences. Some described a work environment where professional standards were constantly changing. Others talked about the challenge of maintaining quality when fundamental decisions were being made and unmade on a daily basis. The morale on set had deteriorated to the point where experienced professionals were questioning whether they wanted to continue with the project. The editing process became a nightmare. Editors found themselves trying to create coherent episodes from footage that often contradicted itself. Conversations that seemed to be heading in one direction would suddenly veer into unrelated territory. The show's supposed theme of love and connection was being overshadowed by moments of conflict and confusion. Focus groups confirmed what many suspected: audiences were struggling to understand what they were watching. Was it a cooking show? A political discussion? A celebrity interview program? The lack of clear identity was making it difficult for viewers to connect with the content on any meaningful level. The crisis reached a tipping point when major media outlets began reporting on the behind-the-scenes drama. Headlines about the Harris walkout dominated entertainment news cycles. Social media was filled with speculation about what had really happened on set. Instead of generating positive publicity for the show, the incidents were creating the kind of negative attention that damages everyone involved. Netflix's relationship with other talent agencies began to suffer. Agents who had previously been eager to get their clients involved in platform projects were now asking more detailed questions about production standards and creative control. The Harris incident had become a cautionary tale about what happens when professional boundaries aren't respected. The most tragic aspect of this entire situation is how preventable it was. Both Harris and Meghan are accomplished women who could have created compelling content together. The topics they were supposed to discuss, leadership, empowerment, making a difference, are subjects that audiences genuinely care about. Instead, personal agendas and poor judgment turned what should have been a positive collaboration into a public relations disaster. For Harris, the decision to walk away was about maintaining her integrity and professional standards. She recognized that her reputation and credibility were being put at risk for content that didn't serve any constructive purpose. Her response sent a clear message to the industry about the importance of respecting guests and maintaining professional boundaries. The aftermath continues to unfold. Netflix is still dealing with the financial and reputational consequences of the failed production. Other streaming platforms are using this incident as a case study in how not to manage celebrity partnerships. And throughout Hollywood, the story has become a reminder that star power alone isn't enough to create successful content. What we're witnessing is a broader conversation about accountability in the entertainment industry. When celebrities are given platforms and resources, there's an expectation that they'll use them responsibly. The Harris-Meghan incident demonstrates what happens when that trust is violated. The ultimate irony is that a show designed to celebrate love and connection became a symbol of professional dysfunction and wasted opportunities. Instead of inspiring audiences, it's become a cautionary tale about the importance of preparation, respect, and clear communication in any collaborative endeavor. As this story continues to develop, it raises important questions about how the entertainment industry can better protect both talent and audiences from projects that prioritize controversy over quality. The Harris walkout wasn't just a moment of personal frustration, it was a professional statement about standards that matter more than ratings or social media buzz. The real tragedy isn't just the wasted money or the damaged relationships. It's the lost opportunity to create content that could have genuinely made a difference in people's lives. Instead, we're left with a mess that serves no one and helps nothing. And perhaps that's the most important lesson of all: when professional standards are abandoned in pursuit of manufactured drama, everyone loses: the audience, the talent, the platform, and ultimately, the industry itself.